Alright everyone, we start off today talking about how the GOP is really screwing the pooch. It's doing it again. The Republicans, true to form, are taking an issue on which they were winning, and then they overreach, they get distracted, and they start getting their shit shoved in. This is specifically with regards to the transgender issue in the United States. Now, the majority of the U.S. population wants people associated with their actual birth gender for the purposes of competitive sports, for example. While there's a debate being had on it, the GOP is on what you could deem, at least poll-wise, the right side of history on that. The average person does not want the attendant issue of drag queen story hour. There's a supermajority of the population that feels that kids at drag shows, for example, are inappropriate. Now, this is artificially intertwined with the transgendered people's rights issue because they're not the same thing. What's happened is, of course, drag shows are sexualized minstrel performances. They're a mockery of females. They are not a gender identity. They're not a sex, although they are sexualized. They have nothing to do with that. A straight person, of course, and many have for comedic purposes, can dress in drag. They could put on a drag show, and nobody really cares. That wasn't an issue either until recently, because drag shows were understood to be for adults. If you want to go to the strip club and there's drag performance night or something, that's fine. You get boozed up and, I don't know, rub a cock or something like that. If you're into that, that's okay. You're an adult. But people don't want kids going to those shows. Instead, what the GOP has done with regards to the issue is overstretch. You have a chorus of people within the GOP, and most of them do label themselves conservatives. The overlap is significant. Now, I disagree with them on this because as a non-conservative, I'm a Second Amendment purist. So when you say, well, people who are transgendered shouldn't be able to have guns, based on, a few mass shootings that have been done by people who are transgendered, I say you're number one, you're playing the liberals' game. Number two, it makes you look like a hypocrite. Number three, you're getting distracted on an issue where you got the fucking moral high ground, just like with drag queens and stuff. When you say, well, drag should be banned, and there are a handful of conservatives actually saying that, the liberals are unaware of this at the time, so you're still winning on the issue broadly. That goes beyond simply saying, hey, keep the kids out of it. We support the ability of children not to be taken to a performance that is explicit in nature. It does not matter if the person there in drag is gay. It doesn't matter if it's not drag at all. It doesn't matter if it's just like normal stripping or something like that. Who fucking cares? It's kids that you're talking about. There's no reason for them to be there. I would point out the GOP is also right now quickly exhausting what political capital it had on abortion. When you start banning the abortion pill, which has been approved for human usage for decades, and you're doing that via activistic court rulings as opposed to any form of legislation, specifically a federal court in this case. Pristine, I believe it's called. Good luck pronouncing that one as a Rubish Vermonter from the Connecticut Valley side. Anyway, when you try going after that, when you go beyond like, hey, the average American believes that first trimester abortion should be legal, and beyond that if the woman's going to die. This is roughly in line with most European states. It's the norm in most developed countries in the world. There's nothing particularly pernicious about it. And the average person in the public does not support abortion after the point of viability. That would be a GOP position that would be uniting, in which they would win. Instead, they have said, well, in some states they've effectively banned abortion. Now they're going after the abortion pill, which, that happens in the first few weeks of pregnancy. It has nothing to do, it's not a surgical procedure, and its action is mimicked by certain herbal materials that you can get off fucking eBay in bulk for $10. There is no way to prevent chemical abortions from occurring. All you're going to end up with is some people having drastic side effects or dying as the result of drinking pennyroyal and cohosh, or using parsley or something like that. Apparently basil, also contraindicated for pregnant women. I never knew that before. How does Italy exist? I don't know. Anyway, saying disarm the trans people, drag should be outlawed entirely, there should be no abortions whatsoever, etc. And it goes hand in hand with a very small fringe of people, but keep in mind that the liberals want to amplify those voices. There's a reason that they don't get banned for saying, hey, end a woman's right to choose. I'd go further than that. I don't think women should be able to vote. Yeah, that's a really great selling point. See, the problem is, whether it's a small or a large proportion of the GOP or conservatives in the general sense, saying something, it will be extrapolated to be everybody by your political opponents. The same happens to liberals. I'm well aware of the fact that there are plenty of liberals out there that don't wear the sweater and have the NPR mug and listen to PBS and shit like that. I'm well aware. I'm well aware of the fact that there are leftoids out there who are not scrawny soy drinkers. There are leftists out there that are physiologically normal. It's not common, but they do actually exist, having met some of them. Mainly the liberals physiologically have a little bit of an advantage on a general basis. That tanky, you know, MREs, all you tankies, MREs don't contain soy milk generally. You don't get a lot of tofu in them. I guess you have to import the Chinese MREs. And I'll try one sometimes. I'll even eat the tofu just to show that my testosterone levels can handle that. Anyway, the GOP is being totally bamboozled. And here's the thing. The only glue holding them together, as per usual, is Trump. Trump now well above 50% in polling aggregates for the primaries. He's the presumptive nominee. The indictment of Donald Trump did the opposite of harm him. In fact, it caused him to soar in the aggregate by almost 7 points. Roughly in line. I said 5 to 10 would be probably the result. It's finally stabilized, or seems to have, at about 7 points of gain. Well, right on the mark as usual. He'll probably be nominee. That's a unifying thing, although there are TDS sufferers. What other unified message does the GOP have? It doesn't have a unified budget message, although, to be clear, they are playing football with the Biden admin. Biden has ruled out negotiating at all. It's half his fault, it's half McCarthy's fault. You can't blame the GOP solely, but they're not really putting forward a coherent message. The problem is the messaging. The messaging is all over the place with regards to economic issues. About the only thing, therefore, that they have left is, hey, let's try not to start World War III. and the indictment is a sham. Those are the two GOP mainline platforms going into one of the most important elections that we'll probably see in our lifetimes. Considering the untested waters that the United States has waded into with the indictment of a former president / current frontrunner of a mainline party, with what's going on with the reheating of the Cold War, we are not in waters that have been tested before. We don't know if there's sharks and barracudas in those waters. We don't have a boat, by the way, so good luck. Good luck and Godspeed. Say your prayers before you go swimming tonight. The GOP, watching them self-harm effectively over and fucking over. They did this in 2022. They did this in 2020. They sabotaged their own candidates. They sabotaged their own topics. I keep trying in vain to warn them to grow a pair, but at this point I think that I've lost hope. It's like the MAGA Republicans have sense, but they're still, at least in the representative sense, they're a minority at the federal party level. The party's still run by McCarthy, who's half-assedly redeemed himself. McConnell, who never will, and Ronna McDaniel's the completely ineffective. Those are the people that run the federal level function of the party. Now, the state level parties, some of them do a little bit better. That's the other problem. Some of the state level parties are appeasing their constituents, but what they do on the federal level pisses people in swing states off. This is a problem, by the way, also had by liberals. You think that a Californian or Michigan state policies would be popular in a place like Florida? I don't think so. I don't think that they would translate well to the Carolinas or to Nevada either. It becomes a big problem. The GOP could solve this problem by having a more coherent messaging and by strategically taking a step back, take a deep breath, put on your big boy pants, count to 10, and then figure out, all you have to do is look at the general sentiment about the things that you've said and you'll figure out what to shut up about. That's all you have to do. But instead, the GOP is basically like the cowardly lion, roaring impotently and then backing down the second that a struggle begins. The cowardly lion should really be the logo instead of the elephant. I guess the elephant's afraid of a mouse. It's not afraid of the donkey over there, but the mouse appears and suddenly it scampers back into the circus tent or something like that. Bunch of morons. You've got to be a moron to take an issue on which the vast majority... CRT is another example. woke education is massively opposed by every element of society, every block within voting. Both genders, all creeds, all colors, all socioeconomic rungs. You've got it all. What do? Before the last election, for the last couple of months, did they goddamn even talk about education at all? No. Other than a handful of individuals that were like voices in the wilderness, nobody at the national level even brought it up. You have like a 70-30 approval on the issue with your stance, which is, hey, stop teaching kids communism and how to sphincter bait, and you blew it. You stopped talking about it. I warned of this before the last election that it would hurt them. They're doing it again. It's almost like the uniparty Republicans are trying to sabotage their own party because they would rather it crash and burn than have populism. That's about all. Peace out.